Hello, everyone, and welcome to our halftime interview series. I am your host, Sammy Pavlov, field hockey player and recent virtual graduate of Smith College. And today I am super excited. I am here with a graduate of Smith's Exercise and Sports Studies program and someone who helped establish Smith's cross country and track teams, Coach Mary Grinaker. Coach.
Hi, Sammy.
Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Very good. I hope you're doing well.
Where are you joining us from? Where's home?
I'm in Madison, outside of Madison, Wisconsin, in Wanakee. So right across the lake from Madison.
And you went to school up there. Can you talk about your undergrad experience and then what brought you to Smith?
You bet. I went to school at University of Wisconsin-Madison. I grew up in northern Minnesota and was recruited to run at Madison or at UW, and spent 4 years. And was a physical education major. My father, to backtrack a bit, my father was a professor of physical education at a small college in Minnesota. And I was going to do my senior year. I was still competing. I was student teaching. I was trying to do it all, right? But still in the back of my head, I just knew I didn't want to be, teaching, coaching someplace up in northern Wisconsin. Anyway, so he found an ad in a small, tiny little ad in the back of a physical education magazine for this teaching fellowship at Smith College. And of course, he sent it to me. He's like, you should really apply for this. I'm like, really? What, Smith? I had no idea where it was, no idea what it was. So I thought, sure, why not? I applied for it. Get a call spring of my senior year, probably about in March, from Jim Johnson, who at that time was the chair of the ESS department, and offering me a fellowship. And I'm like, can I call you right back? It was hard to accept it at that point. I was really like, oh my gosh, do I do this? What am I? It's clearly it took my life from being, totally different trajectory. And so I ended up accepting the fellowship, got to Smith, or graduated, got to Smith. And 10 days later, I had a cross country team in my lap. And I'd run track and cross country. I mean, I never had run track cross country at Wisconsin, but I was a hurdler, jumper, multi-event athlete. And cross country, we would train with the cross country women in the fall, but never, ever, ever, run that far. So all of a sudden I have this cross country team at Smith in my lap, and I'm like, this is cool. Plus I'm not even a year older than one of the seniors on the team at Smith. So it was kind of an interesting phenomenon, but it was a great fun.
Can you talk about that dynamic? Because I always think it's very interesting with our grad assistants or young coaches, finding that balance of, being young and relatable, but also being that coaching figure. Could you talk on that?
That's difficult. And you also have, early on, I had graduate students. So I was just a couple of years older than them, and then having to mentor them and, and still be, not that much older than my older students on the team. So it's a difficult role. I think I never really, it was something that you just knew that it's not a line you would ever cross in terms of being their best friends ever. Do you know what I'm saying? You just can't do that. So it's difficult, but yet you want to have the respect of them. Do you know what I'm saying? It's really a difficult role, definitely, especially as a graduate student.
Yeah, it's something that I think about a lot. And during this time, during your ESS program, did you form your coaching philosophy? And then during your years coaching at Smith?
It was interesting because I really had to hit the ground running right away. I mean, I had no time to really think, oh my gosh, I better get my philosophy. I think it was sort of an innate thing. I had phenomenal coaches growing up, was a jock from day one. My father was a coach. I had great college coaches, phenomenal college coaches. So I sort of had that in me, I think. Clearly, as you do it on your own, you start to develop things that work. I would say that Smith definitely changed me. I mean, I got there, the first thing I hear is we can't have practice. Practice on Friday had to end early because they have tea on Friday. They have to go to tea at their houses. And Thursday they have faculty dinner, so that you had to end practice early. And all of a sudden I was going, whoa, wow. I had to sort of step back and realize this is a different world than Division I athletics. That really set the tone for me in terms of sort of understanding what this was all about. Do you know what I'm saying? It was really a different thing, but it definitely made me appreciate the intensity of what they were doing as undergraduate students. And it really put the student athlete in perspective, right? At Wisconsin, I was an athlete student. I'm not saying, I don't want to rip into Division I athletics, but yet even back in the early 1920s when I was in college, you were still an athlete. Do you know what I'm saying? You were very much an athlete, and you were a student. But Smith, athletics at that point was definitely a diversion from academics. You know, it was like I don't want to call it, it was much, much more than intramural sport, but they were students. And I appreciated that right away, very much right away.
So you do this 2 program for ESS, and then you start coaching at Smith, correct?
Correct.
What was that experience like? What did track and cross country at Smith look like during that time? I read that you did you help build the ITT? Were you part of that?
Yes. Process? Oh, for sure. In fact, I finished my coursework at Smith, and I still remember Larry Fink was the director of athletics, and he brought me in. I was done with the coursework. I still had I written my thesis. I kind of stalled out to write my thesis because I was coaching so much. It was crazy. And so I'm sitting in Larry's office, and he said, you know, Mary, I would really like you to stay on and I want you to be my track coach. I want you to build this building, be my person, be my, eyes and ears, and really help, from the track and field perspective, not from the financial perspective, from the track and field perspective, help with that part. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm 24 years old, thinking, wow, this is a really crazy opportunity. Mm-hmm. But wow, what an opportunity. So I ended up staying for like the 10 years. I think, Peter DeVilliers clearly was part of that whole beautiful, life at Smith. But the opportunity to really make kind of crazy, great decisions, going up to Montreal with the Mondo people who did the surface, and, going to Boston and looking at facility. We were building an outdoor track at the same time. So it was really like a lot of stuff. And walking around the track and deciding with the painters and talking about lines and talking about sight lines and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, this is amazing to be able to do this. And I think, looking back and you go, wow, this is crazy. Crazy. And it was
that all the athletes watching can relate to, because we have all run our miles in the ITT and time playing field hockey in there. Can you talk about your favorite memory from coaching at Smith? Does anything stick out?
Speaking of like the brand new ITT, do you still call it the ITT?
Yes.
Whatever. Okay. We hosted, right away, we hosted 2 Division III national championships in indoor track. So literally the year that the indoor track was being built, I had some athletes at a national championship, and I was approached by the NC Track and Field Committee members, and they wanted me to meet with them. And I'm thinking, oh boy, this is crazy. So I ended up meeting with them, and they wanted me to become part of the committee. But part of that was they also wanted Smith to put in a bid to host the next championship, because they were really having a hard time finding, that quality of the facility. And I think that the rumor was out there that we were building this, literally at that point, was the state of the art, Taj Mahal. And so I remember calling Larry from the meet saying, Larry, we have a problem. Not a problem, but we better, this is kind of a big deal. We can host this meet, but it's going to mean a lot. And Smith wasn't really ready or set up to do that at that point, structurally in the department. It was really, Carol Grills, Larry, as administration. We had no, assistant ADs, nobody was like that. So we had such a small staff. And we pulled it off. We pulled off the most amazing, Division III championship. And I think one of my fondest memories probably is walking. I think I was walking someplace on campus following this group of athletes at the meet. And they were from, I can't remember, like UW La Crosse or someplace Midwestern small college. And these guys were talking, and I could hear them point blank, they were talking to each other. So I can't believe that they have this kind of facility for a girls' school. At a girls' school, and you kind of went, oh boy, I had no idea.
schools are still, traveling to the ITT even now in the Pioneer Valley. They are still coming for the indoor track. So
you bet. Well, I know Amherst. In fact, we trained at Amherst. We would go to Amherst, and they used to have like a square dirt little indoor facility, and that's where we had nothing else to do. We would throw the shot in the lounge in Ainsworth. Wow. And I still remember Carol Newhoff yelling at me, pulling me into her office, yelling that we couldn't throw this indoor shot in the lounge. I'm like, Carol, we have no place else to throw it, and it's an indoor shot, so it's not going to hurt anything. But it was just, we had nothing. I was trying to create, track and field in a situation where nobody didn't really understand it, and it was difficult. But then all of a sudden we had unbelievable facilities. The ITT, we had, the outdoor track that were phenomenal and built in beautiful facilities.
You were part of that process. That is great, because
that's cool.
Facilities are like the bare bones of what it takes to build a program. You have to start with great facilities, add the coaches, but facilities are so important.
And then I get back to Wisconsin after being at Smith, and the indoor track and tennis facility at Smith is, I don't even know what year was it finished, 1985 probably? Okay, so it's still phenomenal, the facility, but it absolutely, compared to Wisconsin's indoor track, it was like, it makes it look, you can't even compare. It's so much better. Wow. So there you go. You still have it.
You have the ITT, athletes are still running their time miles in there, besides the track and cross country teams always, out in there.
Right.
And last year you were inducted into Smith's Athletics Hall of Fame. I wanted to congratulate you.
Thank you.
And when you think back to the Hall of Fame and you think back on your time of Smith, what is your proudest accomplishment? Wow.
That's an interesting thing. It's always interesting to get into a Hall of Fame. I don't want to, it's not brag at all, but I'm in a couple others, but all for my athletic performance. Genetically, I could jump and I could throw, or I could hurdle fast and whatever. So the Minnesota State High School League and high school one. But it was pretty cool to be in the Smith one, because it really, it spoke to what I actually had accomplished sort of as a
coach.
And genetics weren't involved, right? So as a coach. And it was kind of pretty cool to think that I actually had an impact on anybody for that matter. I had a lot of fun at Smith. I mean, probably too much fun at times. I think back in probably my mentor, Peter Tagan, at Wisconsin, his training was incredibly difficult. We knew we were the best trained athletes in the country. It was very difficult. He was a former German coach and athlete. The training was very systematic, very, if you call it, difficult, okay? But we also knew when we did it, we would become better athletes. So as far as from a mention standpoint, he definitely showed me the ropes that way. And I think I learned at Smith, because here you have a totally different kind of athlete. So I would deliver these pretty difficult training sessions kind of on a silver platter and sometimes you have to kind of hand it over and go, oh, it's going to be hard, but you're going to get good at doing this. So I expected sort of a buy-in from them. You're going to buy in, but if you do it, you will be successful. And when you're successful, it all makes sense. Make sense? Just like in track and field is not fun. Kind of like swimming and diving, or swimming, not fun at all. For sure. Painful. I mean, you in hockey or in soccer, whatever, your toughest part of your workout might be, the line drills you do at the end, or the whatever kind of stuff. You run a lot, but yet track and field, you're running until you have your hands on your knees, sucking air. And then you do it, you have a little bit, 30-second rest, and guess what? You're on it, you're doing it again. So it's so not fun. So from a coaching standpoint, to have to deliver that, there's definitely an art. There's an art and a science to it. And I think that if I could say anything that I do, and I do it now in my personal training life, is sort of delivering it with the art and science of exercise, right? I mean, you have to have it. There's an art to it. There's a science to it, clearly. And that's that kind of that fine line between.
You've mastered both.
I'm not sure I mastered it, but you know what I'm saying. I think you try to do it.
You try to deliver.
So, yeah, and then hopefully your athletes or your student athletes or whatever you have are having a kind of like too much fun doing it, and they kind of fake them out. They don't even really know that they're doing it.
I hope so. I mean, I bet you convince them that it's not even that hard, by the way.
Yeah, well, right. But if you're successful, that's good.
There you go. Well, Coach Grinaker, I wanted to thank you for making time to speak with us today. You definitely helped establish the cross-country and track teams. I know you're an active member of the Smith community and the athletic community even today, and we really appreciate you. It's great to see, the story behind the ITT, especially the athletes watching that use that every day, and just hearing about, how far our program has come. And
right.
That can be attributed to you as well. And I want to thank you so much.
Thanks, Sammy.
Yeah, and enjoy I'm your host, Sammy Pavlov. Thank you for joining us for the halftime interview series. I hope you enjoy the second half of the game. Take care.